Nerds. In this live stream, we will review and do a spoiler breakdown of The Rings of Power, Episode 7 called The Eye, and Episode 8 called Alloy, starting now. Welcome to the Nerd Social. I am Colin.
I am Priya.
And I'm Nathan.
So, a little bit different this time. I am actually facilitating this discussion and review and breakdown. So, just wanted to talk a little bit about who directed Episode 7. It was directed by Charlotte Brändström and written by John D. Payne and Patrick McKay. And Episode 8 was directed by Wayne Shea Yip and written by John D. Payne and Patrick McKay as well. So, spoiler-free logline for Episode 7 because we missed a week ago. Survivors of a cataclysm try to find safety. The Harfoots confront evil. Durin is torn between friendship and duty. Adar considers a new name. And then for the spoiler-free tagline for Episode 8, Season 1 finale. New alliances are forged. So, we're just gonna go quickly go through Episode 7, and then we'll talk more in depth about today's season finale. Just came out today on Amazon Prime Video. So, Priya, what do you think about Episode 7, The Eye?
We talked about this when we did Episode 6, which was, we saw Mount Doom, it was Udun, and it kind of picked up the pace from the action perspective for sure, but I think it also did quicken the pace in a lot of the plot lines. I think that carried over into Episode 7 because this kind of was the post Mount Doom kind of bleakness of the episode and the consequences of a lot of the previous storylines that have led up to, that kind of moment. I think there's a lot of plot lines, like the Logline said. Some of them were stronger than others, of course, but I do think there's some changes that the show makes or some decisions the shows make that's, as a viewer, you already kind of know what the fate of some of the characters are. So I think that kind of falls short in a way because they're trying to make these very dramatic moments, but when we know the fate of some of the characters, it kind of fails to hit that mark. But I also think some of the changes that they've made with the newer characters that were established for the show have also been pretty strong. So I think overall, it was kind of it's called the eye, so it's kind of the eye before the storm, right? Because of the season finale. So in that way, I don't think maybe it was tongue-in-cheek because it was like the eye of Sauron, which we didn't get in this episode. Maybe that's a spoiler. But I do think it was like the calm before the storm, before the finale.
Nathan, what do you think about Episode 7 called The Eye?
Yeah, I liked it a lot. I tend to like all the episodes where Durin shows up in Disa. So I liked it because of their interplay and the stuff that we saw with them. As Priya said, it's called The Eye, which coincidentally is the name of the episode this week on Andor, which is also called The Eye, probably for the same reason, the eye before the storm. So the episode was good. Like it wrapped up, or it was the aftermath of everything that we saw in 6. It was again pushing the elves either further into like desperation, which, if you know the larger story, makes it a little bit clearer or makes it a little bit more understandable why they do what they eventually do in the larger story of Middle Earth, and the larger story in this specific story of the Rings of Power. So yeah, it was a good setup for what we get in the finale, I think.
Yeah, it's, for me, I think it's just the visuals was just amazing. I think that Episode 7 really took my breath away in terms of visuals, especially at the very beginning part of it was just really amazing. And I just think that that the storylines were very compelling, and I think that they did leave some mystery that was there. The drama that was with some of the characters was definitely very compelling at times. And so, without spoiling anything, I think that it was a very strong episode overall. I think it was I would say it's definitely stronger than episode 6, which was really good. Um, there was a lot of drama there too, with the orcs and with the attack and stuff like that. The Helm's Deepness of everything, and then and then and then I think it's also, I think, slightly better than episode 8 as well. But yeah, it's probably going to be my favorite of all of them. So that's pretty much kind of how I see it, overall, in terms of episode 7. But any other thoughts? We might even get into some spoiler free about episode 8 before we jump into spoilers. So any other thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I like 7. I don't know if I like it better than 6. I do think I might like it better than 8. Even though there are like lots of revelations in 8. But yeah, it was a solid episode. I guess we can start talking about our thoughts, our review of 8. So.
Okay, all right. So, if you enjoy this conversation, please like and subscribe. It really helps us out in the algorithm, and just and also to help us to create more content like this. And so we wrapped up She-Hulk, and we're wrapping up the Rings of Power, but we also have House of the Dragon that we are few episodes behind, but we're going to catch up with that, and also Andor as well. So yeah, like and subscribe. It really helps us out. So spoilers ahead.
So do we want to jump into spoilers, or do we want to talk about the episode spoiler free first?
It's up to you. I mean, I think we can talk about your initial thoughts on 8 first. I apologize for that.
No worries.
Yeah.
Go
ahead.
You want to go, or
talk about a little bit about 8? Yeah.
Priya, did you want to go, or
why don't you go ahead, Nathan? Why don't you go ahead, Nathan?
Yeah, like I said, I think I liked there were definitely a lot of revelations in this episode. A lot of theories that there were theories all season long, and they actually answered questions, which was more satisfying than I thought that we were going to get. Which was appreciated. They still had like scenes that were overlong in this episode though. And they were obviously trying to do things that were like reminiscent of the movies, with like so many goodbyes. Like so many goodbyes. But I like how they handled one big revelation. There's a little bit of a mystery about one of the mysteries that. Sorry, there remains to be a small mystery related to one of the characters, but there was quite a bit revealed about that character as well. So there are definitely still some questions out there. And I mean, if you don't know anything about the books or the movies, I guess there's another question. But like Priya said, one of the questions that they had in episode 7 isn't really a real question. If you watched any of the movies or watched or watched any of the any of the books. So yeah, but I think it was a solid. I think it was a solid ending. I don't think that, like I said, I don't think it was better than 6 or 7, but I think it was a solid ending. And I appreciate they didn't like leave big questions unanswered, because who knows when they're going to come back. They just started shooting. They just started shooting recently, and I think not New Zealand, in Europe or England, and this I can imagine this show is quite an undertaking in post-production and in production. So, but yeah, it was a satisfying ending, I think.
Yeah. Priya, what did you think about episode 8? In terms of all the reveals and things like that, spoiler free.
I actually thought that they did a really great job about pulling together a lot of the reveals. Like Nathan said, it was much more satisfying than I thought. I was actually like very happy with some of them. And I think we've discussed some of the theories, and I think we got some of them spot on. So I was very proud of us at the Nerd Social. For not going too far off the track there. But I do think it was quite a satisfying ending, considering there was so much build up, in the especially the first 5 episodes. There was so much narrative and build up and stage setting and world building that I think it was a satisfying ending, because we'd seen so much of that already. So in that way, I think it was a good ending. Like I was saying for episode 7, I think with the new characters they added this kind of level of mystery and conceit and deception that actually worked well for the show. You know, like Tolkien didn't have a lot of it. He didn't have Halbrand, he didn't have the Stranger, he didn't have Adar. He added, the showrunners really added those characters, and I think it's added that layer of like, wait, who is Sauron? Who is the Stranger? And it actually made that conversation very relevant for viewers of the show. And I think they actually held on to that tease nicely for the season, but I am so relieved that they actually answered the questions in the first season, didn't kind of drag it over.
Well, there was one thing they did not answer, but we gotta do.
They have to like give us something, right?
Yeah, exactly.
To kind of hold on to and hold the threads. But I think there's, like Nathan said, they do a lot of kind of callbacks to the previous movies. There's like literally dialogue from the previous movies, that they kind of associated with a lot of the same characters that you see later. So Elrond, Galadriel, someone else, they all have actual words from the movies, which I thought was like just a really nice touch for people who love the movies. So yeah, and I think overall a pretty good ending to the show, and they kept the pace going after episode 6. So I think satisfying.
Yeah. I feel the same way too. I think that again, episode 8 was not as good as 7. I just think that visually it was just so stunning. It just again took my breath away for number 7. But number 8, yes, great that they did not leave those threads out there and like in the wind and things like that. I think that it's also kind of a touching scene as well at the end of episode 8, which was really interesting. But overall, I think it's still the last 3 episodes definitely very solid. And we were kind of questioning it. Oh, is it too slow? Oh, there's so much narrative. Oh my gosh, I fell asleep. I definitely did not fall asleep in the last 3 episodes. So definitely kept my attention going. Now I think that we can probably get into a little bit about spoilers.
I'll put another. You can say the alert again.
Yeah, we can do that.
Okay.
So just making sure you're paying attention, people.
Exactly. Right. So we started off with episode 7 with this really amazing visual of like Galadriel covered in ash. It's kind of like how some people online was describing how it's almost hell on Middle Earth, and it was just so stunning. I just felt like, wow, this is really where the show really arrived, and I was just really again blown away by it, and really that whole scene of them desperately trying to find out who's alive, who's dead. Where is everybody? You don't really know where everybody is. It was just really, really amazing to me, and that was the main thing for me that stood out in terms of the plot. And then also at the end where they reveal the Southlands, and then it just turns into Mordor, and it's like, wow. I'm like, great, this is like really cool, really, really cool stuff. So those were the 2 big highlights for me.
Well, I guess we got a Balrog in this episode, in 7 as well, right?
I'm surprised. Didn't talk about the Balrog actually.
The Balrog, to me, the Balrog, Fellowship of the Ring, Balrog, that first appearance of it was just totally awesome. So I think having the Balrog there was great, but at the same time, I think those two scenes I think really stood out for me.
Yeah. I mean, Priya, you want to talk about the thing that's a mystery that isn't really a mystery?
Yeah.
Yeah, like, okay, we know Isildur's fake, people. I mean, I don't know why they made that decision, of like,
is he dead?
Is he dead? I mean, we pretty much see him in the opening, almost in the opening scene, right? We know his fate. So I thought that was a very odd choice. To kind of make that one of the mysteries of all the choices that they could make. I guess maybe they wanted like, the next season to be Isildur in the wild by himself, and that's why they created the separation.
Maybe. I mean, I think the only reason I can think that they're doing this is motivation for Elendil. So like the way that he operates now, whether or not he's gonna like he discussed in the 8th episode, doubling down on his faith, even given what he lost, even given what he's lost, and also trying to explain why Isildur is going to fail and make the decision that he's going to make. It's going to be partly because of his experiences being lost on Middle Earth. Whatever's going to happen to him is going to feed into his failure later on. Maybe that's why they do it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. I think like there's also just like I agree with you, Colin. I think it's probably after the first few episodes where there was just so much kind of focus on, I guess, the shininess, especially with the elves, and then with Mithril coming in. I mean, this episode went bleak. It went dark. You know, like it just starts with ash.
Yeah, she's covered. It's not special effects. That's really good. Like set decoration, and also like I mean I think some of it is probably special effects, but they really caked her in what looked like ash, and it was kind of like it gave you a really visceral feeling of, you know, that's probably what it would look like if you were like that far away. She was very far away from the eruption, but even being very far away, you'd be like covered in ash. So yeah,
definitely.
Yeah.
Nathan, what do you think about the Harfoots journey as well in this in well, not just in this episode, but also in number 8? Kind of like did they kind of change your mind on how you feel about them?
I mean, I forget what happened in 7. I remember what happened in 7. So in 7, there
7 was pretty much like the trio, the orchard, the weird, orchard, and then the trio.
The trio
their wagon.
Yeah. So they burnt up everything. I think in 8 is the first time we even hear them speak. They don't even speak until episode 8.
Right.
I think there wasn't much with the Harfoots in 7. It was okay. I mean, I have screenshots for 8, so we can actually start talking about 8 when we get to 8. But like, the story was interesting. You got more of a hint of who the stranger was in 7. And you also got an extension of like Nori being ambivalent toward him, because of her getting hurt in 6. Was it 6 that getting hurt in 5, because she wasn't in 6. But yeah, I think where we end up in 8, it makes sense given what happened in 7. They thought that he failed, and he ended up not failing. He just doesn't have full grasp of his power yet. But yeah, I think the story ended up well enough. I think when we get to 8, and like I said, we can talk about 8 in a bit. Yeah, I think mostly like I said, the thing that I like the most about this show is Durin. He's the MVP. And the best relationship that I like on the show, even though like Disa is like kind of right there sometimes, depending on whether or not she's with Durin, like is Durin and Elrond. Like their friendship, the like when they were in the mines together in 7, it was like this is a great bond. And like when Durin is like entreating his father on behalf of Elrond, he's like a brother from my mother's womb, and that offends his father. I think Durin really feels that, and you really feel that in their interaction with each other. So
yeah, most definitely. I think that was a very compelling, like I said in the non-spoiler part, that was a very compelling scene. That was really well acted, really well done, because you can definitely feel the visceralness of the tension between his father and him, and also like how he values the friendship, even though he was kind of like a little bit teetering a little bit in the previous episodes about like how he felt and like, oh, you don't trust me and things like that. But it's definitely very interesting to kind of see their brotherly love in that way. Very much so.
I think like a lot of the episode focuses on like, you know, kind of what are people not willing to lose, but like the price they are paying for the choices they're making, right? And so, you know, Míriel goes blind, which is kind of her father's prophecy, because he says
the only thing that
we'll go to Middle and all you will see is darkness.
All that awaits you is darkness. Yeah, is what he said. So
like literally for Míriel, and Elendil, he thinks he's lost Isildur. And Durin gets disinherited, right? And that's like a cost he has paid, and we will probably see the repercussions of that for next season, considering
because we get a mention of a brother in that episode as well. So I guess he's going to try to pass it on to his brother, because we haven't heard about this brother. I don't think the entire season. It's like, I guess there's another option.
I felt, and I think because of the way that the season ended, right? I think we saw. Without giving spoilers, I guess, because we're not talking about.
I mean, we're on the whole spoiler section. We can.
Okay, yeah. So we saw that the rings for the elves are made, right at the end of the season. Mm-hmm. So the three rings for the elves are made. So it's likely, if we're thinking about a 5-season show, the next season is probably going to be about the 7 rings of the dwarves, right? And then the one after might be about the 9 rings for the men, and then one about the 1 ring, right? So if we have 1 season focused on, and then the 5th season might be like everything coming together, I suppose. But if they focus on
the battle against
each set of
the battle against Sauron, yeah,
exactly. So I feel like if they do that, then everything that we saw in episode 7 with Durin and his father and Disa being like, we will inherit this one day, it's really kind of setting up the dwarven.
That'd be cool. Season 2 Book of the Dwarves. I'm all in for it.
That would be really, because if you think about it, this one was focused so much around the elves and with Numenor and the elves, so I feel like it'll be a really cool shift to kind of go and end season 2 with the 7 rings of the dwarves. I think I also like how they've used Mithril. I think, Nathan, you were saying this earlier, of how it almost gives like, it's made up for the show, this whole thing of like tapping into Mithril to make the elves survive,
motivation.
But it gives them more
of
this reasoning. It gives them more reasoning as to like why they actually are diminished,
or why they're so desperate,
right?
to
and why they're so desperate. Yeah, because Tolkien didn't really go into a lot of that, not really in why like they left to go to Valinor. But I think this with Mithril, it actually sets up a really interesting way to give them that explanation, and also it's a really cool way to set up the forging of the rings, because it just brings so much of the stuff together. I also think some of the other choices, which you question fate-wise, is like, when Galadriel is telling Theo like, "Oh, my husband died," and I'm like,
again,
her husband in the movie,
he's not dead.
Like, he's not dead. So again, like this whole like dramatic thing, it just seems.
I forgot about that. Yeah, he's not dead either.
He's not dead either, and in fact, like Galadriel, right? And they have Arwen together.
And she doesn't have a daughter yet. So yes, they can't kill him off, because not only he's important to the story, but also they need to make another child to marry Elrond at some point.
They need Arwen, right? So that's why I'm like, I don't know why they're making these very pointed choices when you kind of know the fate.
I mean, we'll talk about. I guess we can talk about Adar, but like, I think it's again similar to Isildur, giving her motivation. Like she's maybe a little rudderless because she lost her brother and her husband, and I mean I guess she doesn't have any other family. So that's why she's so gung ho about like this mission. That's why she's so susceptible to suggestions. I think that's probably why they're what they're trying to get at here, because they still have to bridge the gap between the single-minded, really annoying version that they have here and the like detached Galadriel that we get later on. So having her make major mistakes, as we see in 8, is probably how she gets to being a little bit more detached and not as gung ho and passionate as she is in this series. So yeah,
definitely. One other thing I think in 7, before we go to 8, is that we do know that Theo's mom, Bronwyn, and Arondir survives, and there's a nice touching scene with Theo kind of wrapping up his his story arc in season 1, where he embraces Arondir. It's like kind of like he's like, are you going to be my stepfather type of deal? It's like I
Arondir,
really
yeah,
trust you.
Arondir. Okay, yeah,
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 yeah.
yeah.
So it was really really cool seeing with them two, and they kind of like, I think they get left off in a very good place. They are going to like try to migrate to another. I don't remember the name of the place that they were going to migrate to, but um,
Numenorian colony.
Yeah,
I
it's
can't remember.
basically where
correct.
I think Gondor is going to be. It's like a port that
Yeah.
Numenor. It's a port where the colony was set up, but I think eventually it
Yeah.
will become Gondor.
Hmm.
I think so, because also, and the reason I'm saying that is because Galadriel also gives Theo her sword, and that I feel like that's a very purposeful thing if you have an elven sword as a man. They
Right.
always make a big deal of that. So I
Hmm.
feel like at some point Theo and Isildur's fates are gonna start getting intertwined, and I agree it's probably gonna end up becoming Gondor.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I think we pretty much covered episode 7 there, so we can move on to episode 8. I know, Nathan, you said you had images of episode 8,
Yeah.
so
I will
start
say
off
that we
with
still
that.
haven't seen his ear, so I'm still he might be his half kid. We said the entire season.
Oh yeah,
They,
you mean Theo?
Theo, we never saw his ears.
Oh,
They
okay.
That's why he has the
yeah,
terrible
they cover
haircut.
his ears because
Could be.
all the humans are prejudiced against the elves. So
Oh, okay.
yeah, so this is
Yeah.
where it starts. I think Greenwood. I'm not sure. I'm not sure about these locations. You probably know better than I do. Priya, where Greenwood is.
Not really. I have to take out that map from Tolkien's, or the original ones at the beginning of the show.
Yeah. So they have a fake out at the beginning, where these acolytes catch up with him,
Yeah.
and I actually like how they do the shape shifting here. They do
Mhm.
it differently later on, as well. Um,
It's very like Garden of Eden-y, right? Because he
yeah,
has the apple, and it's very like snake-like
yeah.
shape-shifting.
Hmm.
So
So yeah,
Yeah,
this is this.
definitely.
They meet up with him and they say that he's Sauron, basically, and that's how the episode begins. Is
They're trying to throw us off there. I was like, no, that can't be the case.
I
Cannot.
know. I was like, I wrote it down. I was like, this is a red herring for sure. I was like, this is.
I'm glad.
It's
I'm
not
glad they
Sauron.
didn't. They didn't. So I'm glad that they actually answered the question in the same episode, though. Like if they said
Yes,
they were,
yes, yes.
Yeah.
if they said he was Sauron, and we found out later on in the episode he wasn't Sauron, and we still were wondering who Sauron is, I would be annoyed. So they actually did answer the question in the episode. So, um,
I was so happy with who the stranger was, and I was happy how they revealed it, because this was one of the things I was saying, that they used one of the quotes from the original movie, so it made me very, very happy.
yeah. You know what? I'm missing. Let me. I just realized that the closed captioning is being cut off. Move that up,
Oh, okay.
so we actually can
Yeah.
see what some of these conversations are. All right. I forget what is this. This scene is when she gets to.
Yeah, when Galadriel gets to where they are, the elves
Yeah,
are.
when she brings in Halbrand, essentially,
Right.
yeah.
Halberd
Yeah.
is hurt. Um,
And the Celebrimbor and
s-
Elrond are pretty much like, we have failed
Yeah.
our
So
mission to
this
get them
actually
killed.
we didn't talk about this before, but this is in 7 is when I started to like let go of, like I wasn't sure, but like I started to get suspicious. Like we went back and forth about Halbrand the entire season, especially since
mhm.
and I think I mentioned like weeks ago uh, um his affinity or his alacrity with Smith,
Yeah.
being a Smith, was super suspicious, given that he is like a man from the lowlands and he was able to impress the Numenorians with his skill. It was super suspicious. But like what made me even more suspicious last week is like no one saw him. No one saw him during the battle, and then he happened to be like wounded and needed like medical attention. It was really suspicious. Like,
Yeah.
did he like injure himself?
Yeah, injure himself. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Stab himself.
Yeah.
For me, it was the encounter with Adar that I'm like, oh, he's Sauron. Remember, I mean, Colin, I was telling you as well, like the encounter between Adar and Halbrand, because Halbrand just like pounces on him and puts it and like wants to stab him,
Mm-hmm.
and and he's like, "Do you remember me?"
Ah, yeah,
And
yeah,
at the
yes.
end, Adar is actually like, "I killed Sauron," and blah, and blah blah blah. So obviously, like Sauron has all of this kind of anger towards Adar, and then at the end, when Halbrand's leaving, Adar's chained up. Adar's like, actually, wait. I was like, that has to be Sauron then. But then I feel like this episode, it was almost like on a platter, and I was like, are they making it that obvious now?
Yeah.
Like that is Sauron, because that whole exchange with Celebrimbor that he has, with like, oh, the master I was apprenticed to, and then he gets all like so gooey-eyed when he sees the goals. I was like, wow, they are really
Yeah, and then
Just
and then yeah,
after they just give us that fake out of saying like, oh, the stranger is Sauron. I guess they did that on purpose, because then it's like they really go in hard with Halbrand.
yeah.
Right.
The other thing, even before this episode, that made me super suspicious is like it made me think that he injured himself is because he had a wound that couldn't be fixed by any humans, and he needed to go to
Yep.
the Elven land. It's like, you need to go to the
Yeah.
Elves.
Why
We
would
already,
you go there?
you know that. I mean, if you've read the books or done any of the research, you know that Sauron is going to be the catalyst for creating the rings. He's going to be whispering to Celebrimbor and stroking his ego. And like you said, as soon as he showed up and started like stroking Celebrimbor's ego, he's like,
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah,
It was. It was. I mean, I have to say, I was very. It was a nice scene, because it definitely makes you. It made everyone be like, holy crap! I think that is Sauron.
Yeah.
I think everyone had that realization, even if you haven't necessarily read, the books. I think in that moment, just the way you can see how he's trying to seduce Celebrimbor, I
Yeah.
was like, oh my gosh, this has to
Yeah.
be
I
him.
mean,
Yeah.
it was interesting. It was really interesting. It's like you see, you see earlier on in the season how envious Celebrimbor is of his kinsman who created the I forget the name, the jewels.
Mhm.
Yeah, like when
Silmarillion.
Elrond is like recounting the greatness of that craft. So Halbrand coming in and stroking his ego and saying, "It does the Celebrimbor work here?" It's like he's like, "Wow, he knows my name." It's like,
Do you think with all that thing, do you think that he's gonna get corrupted and be like one of the
I don't remember. I
Yeah.
know that he doesn't have a great fate. Pray you would have to remind me what his fate was. I don't know. I don't think it's great. um,
No. He doesn't get corrupted, but he pretty much is. I mean, you see it at the end of the episode. Like, he is the one that gets silver-tongued by Sauron to forge the rings,
Mhm.
and so. But yeah, it's not like he gets corrupted and he becomes like one with Sauron.
Got
He
it.
just
he
kind of,
create
like,
he
fades.
opened up this Pandora's box basically. I think that it seems the way that they actually wrote it. It's like Sauron was pushing him with his knowledge, but he also was learning from him because it
Mm-hmm.
looked like Sauron. That's part of the reason Adar killed him, right? Because he was trying to push. Um, and maybe the element that he was missing was Mithril, right? He got there, he saw Mithril, and he was like, and he started to push on Celebrimbor. Celebrimbor had his own ideas. So now, whatever he was trying to do, based upon some of Celebrimbor's ideas and him being there, he's going to think of the One Ring now.
Mhm.
Yeah. So
because Celebrimbor essentially gives him, that idea that you can forge an ore with spirit, and
Right.
then actually make it into something that can kind of yield power. So that's we pretty much see kind of like the birth of that concept.
Yeah.
Mm.
So yeah.
Yeah, we can see here Galadriel arriving, and basically, I think that they are. This is where they like a lot of dialogue between Elrond and Galadriel about. What was the dialogue about? I don't
The
quite. I
the
don't
da-
remember.
the dialogue here is about how it regrets it was a mistake. I should have trusted you. It was a mistake. It will.
Mm.
I will not make it again. In the same episode, he's going to regret trusting her again. Like she was
Right.
like, just trust me, just trust me. What she should have said is, a lot of this work was being helped along by Sauron. Maybe we shouldn't do this. Maybe we should just go back to Valinor. That's probably what she should have said, but she didn't.
I was saying, I was like, half of these people's problems would be solved if they just talk to each other. I was really like,
No, I
why
think
would
she was being purposefully deceitful, which is why Elrond at the end, when he found the thing, was like, I don't think it was like a sitcom or like a romantic comedy where they could have talked to each other. I think she's being deceitful. Like
Mm.
after this conversation where he says that he's going to trust her, and after
Mhm.
like she says that you should trust me. I mean, I understand that they would have had to leave without the solution, but maybe they should have just left. I mean, it's like,
Mm.
Yeah. I mean, and a lot of it is pride, right? I mean, pride's been driving Galadriel this whole
Yes.
season. And so you kind of see that where she sees the very thing that Sauron helped create. In her mind, she's like, we have to get it so that we can get ahead of him. But
Yeah.
she,
Mhm.
without having that realization, just like she has done with Halbrand the whole season, that she's actually enabling him.
Yeah.
Right. And so
Mm.
it's kind of like you said, Nathan, it's like she's making so many mistakes, and maybe finally she's made one mistake too many that she just kind of like transcends into like just this very, fightless lady.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
but yeah, I mean, I think this is probably I think it's the first time they've seen each other since that first or second episode,
Hmm.
Elrond and Galadriel,
Yeah,
right?
because
Because
Yeah.
because until she showed up, they thought that she was in Valinor.
Valinor, yeah.
Yeah, they thought that she was in Valinor until she showed up here. They didn't know that she was back. So yeah, this is when he starts to seduce Celebrimbor,
Seduction.
or Celebrimbor. Yeah. Look at that smile. He knows my name.
So oh my god, it is just so I was like, well done, Halbrand, because it was just so it was so sketchy if you look at it. But obviously as Celebrimbor, he's like, oh, that's I haven't thought of that suggestion, and Halbrand's like, consider it a gift. I'm like, oh my god,
Yeah.
this is
Yeah.
it's just so masterful, right? I mean, just completely wrapped him around his finger here.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, and he's being like self-effacing, and he's being like, forgive me if this is a foolish
Yeah.
like, yeah, forgive me, but at risk of sounding a fool, couldn't you just do this? like
Sounds like Emperor Palpatine.
yeah,
Like Emperor Palpatine.
yeah,
Definitely. But I think this the Mithril, and then this is where the king of Numenor passes away.
Yeah.
And
Well-
we see that Muriel has come back, and with Elendil.
Actually, this is before that. This is
Oh, this is
when
before
when
that.
Elendil's daughter gets the
Oh.
commission to, what is
Mhm.
her name? We have it in the notes here.
Pharazôn.
No, her name. Her,
Arian.
Arian.
Yes,
Arian.
Arian.
She gets a
Yeah.
commission to draw, create a statue or something like that. Is that what it was?
Yeah.
Yeah. So she's drawing him to try to get a likeness of him, like a more regal likeness of him, because he does not look like this. Like what she has on the paper.
Yeah.
She's doing him favors there. He looks. And then he wakes up and he thinks that he's speaking to he's speaking to his daughter, Tar-Míriel. He thinks he's talking. He thinks he's speaking to Míriel. So we don't actually get to see what happens here. I guess we assume that she touches the orb. But
she obviously sees the Palantir, and I'm wondering if she sees the Isildur or something. I don't, or she sees the fate of Numenor.
I don't know.
I don't know.
But I thought that him opening this was going to be like how Pharazôn finds it, like. But we don't see that in this episode, so I don't know. There's definitely more to come with Pharazôn. We don't get to see a whole lot of Numenor in this episode. It's mostly about the rings in this episode in the elves. So yeah, I think this is this conversation with Gil-galad where he's like, we gotta go. it's too late. We gotta go. You mean lost, Colin?
Yeah, I think that I'm still around. Maybe.
Okay.
Still here?
You are.
You hear me?
Got you.
You
I
hear me?
could hear
Okay.
you. Your image went away though.
Yeah, I think that it's jumping around a little bit here and there. I guess
I think not. I mean, it's back. It's back now, but it's frozen.
Okay.
Hopefully it'll fix itself.
He just
Yeah.
he wore the ring and now he's back.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's too funny.
So this is Gil-galad basically saying that their time is up, and he doesn't think that they should keep going. And this is also when in this conversation is also when Galadriel starts to get the hint that Halbrand isn't who he says he is, because he says the same thing. I think he says the same thing that Adar said to her about
Yep.
not strength,
That's
but
not of
but
the
spirit,
flesh. Not off the flesh.
but over
It's the
but
thing,
over
it's
flesh.
not off the flesh. but
Over flesh. Yeah, over flesh. Yeah, that's
That's the light bulb moment shot right there.
this power of the unseen world. I think Adar also said that in 6 as well. So yeah.
And they're also and they also foreshadow the rings, right, in this conversation, because they're saying it has to be round, so like you have to kind of like capture the power.
Yeah.
So we all know that's where that's going, even though initially they say it has to be a crown.
Yeah.
So they obviously kind of are laying that groundwork. But I do love that moment when Galadriel realizes I mean, to be fair, Halbrand from the beginning has said, "I am not who you think I am."
Yeah, he never lied to her. He never lied to her.
He never lied to her.
He never. He was honest the entire time. He never lied to her.
Yep. I mean, he said like I took that off of a dead man. I'm not who you think I am. I mean, he did tell her from the very beginning, and so I think in this is finally that moment when it clicks to her that I should probably look into his line, because she pretty much just like used him as the platform for getting the Numenorians to go to Middle Earth.
Yeah, and to his point later on, he didn't want to go. She was like, "You saved me." It's like, no, you really saved me. Like at every turn, she wanted to believe what she wanted to believe, and I think even when we weren't closer to understanding who he was, we were questioning this. Like she saw an emblem and she just assumed, and just put this crown theoretically on this guy's head. Without any sort of evidence whatsoever. She is too much of a not an aristocrat, she cares too much about lineage and things like this, like just the crests. Because the guy has a crest, you assume that he should rule. Maybe listen to all the things he's saying. Maybe listen to the things he's saying about, I did terrible things and I shouldn't be a ruler. Because I think those things, even though we find out who he is, those things he's being very sincere. He doesn't want to rule, and I think this also lines up with some of the stuff that we actually know from Tolkien. You can correct me if I'm wrong. Like after Morgoth was defeated, he was repentant for a little while, Sauron, and then he went back to the evil ways, right? So it seems like everything he was trying to say, she wasn't trying to listen. So she created she helped create the problem. So
She totally did. She totally did. And that's kind of what it is, right? Like her pride and her kind of single-mindedness has pretty much led to this moment because she's enabled him the whole
yeah.
season, right? She enabled everything. I mean, and like the whole Numenor going to Middle Earth, that was totally
Mm-hmm.
her, kind of her doing, and he enabled her, right? And like we said, at before he leaves Numenor, you see him whispering to Pharazôn as well. So you already know, what's gonna come in the next season with Pharazôn.
Yeah, he's definitely a whisperer. He has like the subtle power to induce people. Um,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, this conversation. This is the first time she confronts him, and then she confronts him again after she asks this elf for like the bloodlines of the men. And I feel like I
Mm-hmm.
don't know. I guess maybe this isn't something that she could have asked for in Numenor because they wouldn't necessarily have those records because they didn't have that much connection to the men. Even though they had a colony, maybe they wouldn't have information from like 1,000 years ago because they weren't that interested in the men the men of Middle Earth. But I don't know.
But that is also, it's the same library where she found his sigil to begin with, right? It's in Numenor that she even saw the
Yeah,
sigil,
so
and
they
then
probably had some information. Yeah, they probably had some
so there
information.
probably was something.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, so there probably was something, but she just didn't. At that point, she was so like, "Oh my gosh, I found the king of the Southlands," versus actually, like you said, checking the facts. Let's be honest, because if she was able to find out that that sigil was, of that house of the
yeah.
Southlands, they must have
Yeah.
had some sort of family or something.
Assuming that they had contact sometime in the last 1,000 years, with Middle Earth, they would have had information about that line ending. So yeah, she could have. She
Yeah.
just could have did. She could have done some more digging, but she saw him as a
Yeah.
means to an end, basically,
Hmm.
without
Exactly.
even thinking about it. So yeah.
Yep.
So this is these are the ascetics trying to convince him that he's Sauron, and a lot of the things that they're saying are lining up. He's very drawn to this symbol, this constellation,
Hmm.
which is on the shield here. Um, they call him Sauron. He starts to lose his control here. I think this is when the Harfoots show up.
Hmm.
And what's his name gets stabbed. Well, actually, not yet. They don't. He doesn't get stabbed yet. They create a trap by the shapeshifter pretends to be the
Yeah.
stranger here. Pretends to be bound up here. Where's the
Yeah.
what is the guy's name? Sadik. Sadik.
Is that it?
Sadik is the old guy. Um, so yeah, this is when I think Sadik gets hit.
Hmm.
When they do the shapeshift thing back, and
Hmm.
yeah. So these scenes are pretty cool because we get
Yep.
a lot of action, and we also get a bit of a reveal about who this person actually is. And Nori actually helps him up and gives him the confidence that he needs to like. It has gives him this pep talk about you are um, who you decide to be. Basically, is her pep
Yeah.
talk here. And I think when we saw him use his power a couple weeks ago, one of the things that we said was it seemed like he was underpowered because he wasn't using a staff. Like trying to use it through his hand is why he hurt his hand. So giving him a staff actually helped resolve that issue
Hmm.
for him. So that
Totally. I, I agree, and I think that I really enjoyed the way that they kind of did this fight because for him, he's still questioning who he is. He's still unsure. Is he a peril? Is he good? So I think having Nori there to be his center is a big part of his identity, as much as we know. So I think it was good to kind of see him almost having to make that choice, right? Of like giving in to what the ascetics are saying versus Nori saying, no, you are who you define yourself to be.
right.
And I thought it was just it was a great reveal to kind of be like, oh, he's actually not Sauron, he's the Istar. So he is,
Oh,
one of the 5 wizards. We know who he is at the end. But I thought it was like a nice kind of little mini story within this grander kind of Sauron reveal that we're also getting.
hmm
I mean, I'll just say it. We know he's Gandalf now, so
Yeah,
we also get
I was
Gandalf.
kind of bummed a little bit about that. Like I was still holding out hope he was one of the Blue Wizards because we don't know anything about one of those two except for the fact that they went to the east and he's going to the east. So it would have been
Hmm.
cool
Hmm.
if he went to the east and he was one of the Blue Wizards that went to the east to help out, and we just got a new story about him instead of it being Gandalf. Because I think they came earlier than him as well. So him
Yeah.
coming this early him coming this early as one of the Blue Wizards would have made more sense. But
Right.
then they have him drop the thing about following your nose, and then it was like, okay, it's the
Yeah.
same thing that Gandalf said in the
Yeah.
movie. It's like, okay, fine.
Totally. All right, it's
Yeah,
Gandalf. I mean, to be fair, they might still show the other wizards, because he's heading to Rune.
yeah,
So, we will probably still get more of the wizards, and it'll be, we've seen 3 of the wizards so far. So yeah, so it'll be nice to kind of see the 2 blue
right.
wizards. I'm sure we'll get more of that. But it was sad to see Sada go. This
Yeah,
kind of made
he
me a
was a
little
great
sad.
actor. Like he of the like I said, the Harfoot stuff kind of dragged for me this season, but like I liked his performance. I really liked
Yeah.
that actor in that in that character, and it was kind of sad to see him go. I think
Hmm.
we lost Ottoman and we lost Sadik
Mhm.
this season. I think of the like
Right.
the name characters that we had. I can't think of anyone else who died this season.
No, I think
Uh,
those were the only 2 that died
yeah,
actually, and
I mean,
yeah,
a lot of humans died as well in
a lot of
Yes.
in the
Allegedly a
Southlands.
silver.
No. I mean, like actually, like the exactly.
Yeah,
Isildur's.
yeah, yeah.
I'm talking about
Yeah.
like the villagers. A lot of the villagers died, and like, but like mostly people you didn't like died.
right.
Of the villagers, and people who basically sided with Adar, died, and that snot nosed kid who left Theo to basically just die. He got sacrificed. So like, but yeah, but I think Altamont and Sadik were the only ones who we liked that died.
Yeah.
Do you
So
think that those 3, the trio, that white trio, is going to come back because they look vaguely familiar
they look
to
like the ring
the
race. Yeah, yeah,
exactly
Mermaids.
yeah.
that.
When he made them into sent them back to the unseen world, which I assume is what he was doing.
Hmm.
They definitely look like the ring wraiths here. Yeah,
Right.
Oh yes.
yeah.
But they were elves, right? I
I don't think
mean,
so. They were human. They had rounded ears.
oh,
They're humans.
okay. Because I thought they were elves, and I mean, and they're women. I mean, so
Yeah.
I know it's 9 kings, not queens. So, but I mean, yes, I think they purposely gave them the wraith look, especially the middle one, because it's very similar.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah. The middle
Exactly.
one. I mean, we can go back there. The look like
Also look like
almost
yeah,
like there was
also,
a crown there, but yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah. That goes from the Return of the King, so
yeah,
it could be something as well.
yeah. Um, yeah. He turns him.
I mean, they are also shapeshifters, right?
Yeah,
So, like, for all we know, they might end up becoming the kings later. They might shapeshift into a man.
I think. I mean, from
No.
my understanding, that the kings were actually they weren't evil until corrupted through the
Until
one ring, right?
Yeah.
They sought the power that the elves and the dwarves had through their own rings, and then Sauron corrupted everyone through the one ring that binds them, right? So I don't think they necessarily have to be evil. Like these people. These people are evil from the beginning, because they were like disciples of Sauron before he died, right? Yeah. So this conversation is sort of what I was alluding to. The conversation that she has with him about like keeping the faith down in the hold, given how much they've lost. I mean, she losing her sight, him losing his son, and I think what we're meant to see here is that there's all these black flags, meaning that the king has died. Yeah. Okay. I think that's what because they don't really say anything. Like, I guess we're supposed to know what the black flags are, because there's like nothing really. Although I guess there weren't that many ships in the harbor, so maybe that's also what we're supposed to see. There's so many ships with these black flags, but it wasn't really clear.
No, you're right. I mean, to be fair, I was like, is the water level rising? What am I supposed to be noticing?
Yeah, it wasn't very clear.
It wasn't. But I think I was like, okay, it's the black flag, so
yeah,
to symbolize that her father died.
So yeah, and then they just cut away. It's like,
yeah,
even though they show him in the bed, like, he always looks like this. He's sickly. Like, he could be asleep. But I assume that we're supposed to take from that he's dead.
And this kind of was weird, because I thought they were still in Numenor when
I thought they were still in Numenor too. They jumped up. So at first, like, I was trying to make sense of these scenes, right? And I put them together in my head. So it was like, okay, he said he has this look on his face. We show him, and then I see the smoke, and it's like, wait, is this the smoke? Is like a symbol, like the Vatican when they choose a new pope? Is this like the black smoke and then there was an explosion? Like, wait, no, we're not there anymore. Why would there be an explosion? It's like, yeah.
It was a confusing cut. It was a confusing cut.
Yeah, it was ridiculous. More of Hellbrine whispering to Celebrimbor. And then this is where she confronts him. And then we get the reveal that and he's and Priya, we were just talking about this. It's like everything that she wanted to hear, and he was telling the truth from the beginning.
He is not lying about that.
Where is it here? He said, the last man to bear this crest died over 1,000 years ago, and he said, "Yeah, I told you. I found it on a dead man." It's like, I found it on a dead man 1,000 years ago. It's like, it's like, you saved me. You convinced me to come. I wanted to remain in Numenor. Yeah, which is why he was so interested. He was so interested in the forge there in Numenor, because he hadn't stopped working on his plan, but I think his original thought was like, the Numenorian smiths here are probably far more advanced than the stuff that I can find in Middle Earth. That's why he probably wanted to stay there. So and she convinced him to go to leave. Yeah, these cutscenes are, I mean, he tries to soft sell here using her brother's face. And then the direct approach was still soft, I guess. Which is still a soft approach, I guess. And then when she resists, she was like, "You know what? Your people are against you anyway. Once they find out that you saved me and also brought me here, what do you think they're going to do to you?" Which is, like I said earlier, I think this is in her head when she deceives Elrond and Celebrimbor when she doesn't tell them. And this is something that he suggests. He says, "Don't lie to them. Just don't tell them. Just don't stop the work." And she does that. She actually does that. So.
Yeah, I also like some of the stuff he says to her, because later on when Frodo offers Galadriel the ring, she actually says
Oh
some of
yeah.
the stuff in her like Dark
Yeah,
Queen state where she's like stronger than the
yeah,
foundations of the earth. So I was getting like all Kate
Yep.
Blanchett vibes from Elbrand's dialogues, which I thought was like really cool. So I like those kind of like throwbacks that they did. But I think you're right. I mean, I mean, Galadriel's been one of the central protagonists this season, you know, and they obviously went very different to what we know Galadriel as. So it's almost like, you know, with Obi-Wan, we know his fate as the Hermit later on, you know, and so it's kind of like a similar thing where you're trying to figure out how she goes from this to the Galadriel that we know in Lord of the
Right.
Rings, and it's just this whole kind of, you know, fall from grace with Sauron just really sets her up in that different chain of events that I think we're going to see a lot of
yeah,
in season
Yeah.
two.
Yeah. Definitely. And the camera going back and forth of their faces, that was
yeah,
really cool. I was
yeah,
like, wow.
Yeah.
It's like you kept you compelled, and then you're like they're looking at each other, and you're looking at the camera, and like wow, and then they have that
yeah.
rage
This
inside of them.
in this reflection in the water also of them ruling
Yes.
the
Yeah.
Middle Earth as the king and
Yep.
queen, or Dark Lord and
Yeah.
or Dark Queen um, is also interesting. It was good.
Yeah.
Definitely. Definitely.
The quotes that you were talking about, Priya. Fair is the sea and the
Yep.
sun,
Yep.
stronger than the foundations of the earth.
Oh
Uh,
yes.
Yeah.
yeah,
Fellowship. Yeah.
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 Yeah. So yeah, this is a good scene. But like after the soft sell doesn't work, he's like, uh, they wouldn't even give you.
Yeah. Well,
They cast you away just as you, and you were just begging for some soldiers. What are they going to do to you? What are they going to do to you once they tell you that you made me an ally? It's like, yeah, um,
That's the first time he actually says his name though, when he's like, when because Sauron is alive because of you, or that's the first time he actually, when there's like
yeah. That Sauron lives
admittance
because of you.
by him that he is in
Yeah,
fact Sauron. So I thought I was like, well done. They fight at least like they
yeah,
didn't like, you know, go past the season for
yeah,
that who is
yeah.
Sauron question.
It
Yeah.
was good. This whole this so I think one of the principal challenges of this show is actually um if they're going to tell this story, explaining how the rings actually have to work, because I don't think Tolkien did, and I think they did a good job. Like with the stuff that they made up,
Yeah.
even the forging, these scenes of them actually forging, the fact that they need pure metal, and basically what they'll have to do is melt down the dagger that she was holding for the entire season. That is her brother. I think they set it up
Mm,
very well from the beginning. So yeah, yeah,
that is very true. I mean, they're definitely true to the name of the show, which is
yeah,
Rings of Power. I mean, they really did, especially with this episode, they lean very hard into actually showing you
hmm
how the rings are made and putting a lot of meaning into that. Because you're right, Nathan. I mean, neither Tolkien didn't go into it much, and neither did the
yeah,
movies. They just kind of, you know, it's kind of stated as fact that these rings of power are there, and there was a one ring to rule them all. But I think it's really cool
yeah,
to see the Howl piece, and the mithril angle is a really like
yeah,
inventive way
definitely.
to do it for the show.
Yeah, this is what I was talking about when I said said like a thousand
Oh, all the
goodbyes.
goodbyes.
Um,
Yeah.
I was hoping Poppy was gonna go with
Yeah.
them, like a
I think it would
Sand
be
Sort
too.
of.
Frodo thing, because
It
I
would have
like
been too much
Poppy.
on
I
the
like
nose
Poppy
for her to
so
go
much.
with it. It was like they're trying to make it
I
exactly like the
get.
Fellowship of the Rings. I guess they made it more like the Hobbit here.
Yep.
Her off with Gandalf
Yeah.
in an adventure with Gandalf. But it seems like from this scene, Poppy is going to have, she has a future as the future leader of the group.
Mhm.
She can actually
Mhm.
read the maps
Yep.
as opposed to the
Yep.
the woman who's in charge. I think it begins with an M. I forget what her name is. Malva. Yeah, yeah,
Malva. It's a sweet fate for her because, as we know,
entire
you know,
family.
she
Yeah,
lost her entire
yeah,
family. Poppy did. So now she actually has like the whole Harfoot
Yeah.
family to take care of. So it's a really nice kind of,
Yeah.
circle for her. Um, but I think like I like Poppy's characterization more
I
than
do. I
Nori's.
do
So I
too.
think
Yeah.
that's kind of why I was like,
I mean,
Poppy.
Nori's fine, but I do like Poppy's. I like the actor,
Yeah.
and I like the characterization. But
Yeah.
yeah.
They
Yeah.
definitely put these two as kind of like the Sam and Frodo of the series, but at the same time, I think you definitely, even in the originals, you definitely felt as though like Sam was the rock, of the whole thing, and I think that Poppy kind of plays that role, and it really elicits a really good emotional response from the audience to say that, oh, this is like kind of like a friend that I would like to have, in my life, and like that type of sort of thing. So that type of effect is definitely really, really great. And yeah, I think you're right. Is that I think that she is gonna be kind of like the leader, and you saw some kind of like some of her vulnerabilities before, and then even the evolution of like from the last couple of episodes of them facing danger and stuff like that, pitfalls and stuff. There was one scene, I think it was this, no, it was the previous episode where her father was like being very optimistic about the destruction of the wagons and all their
Yeah.
supplies and provisions, all their property, and I think that at the core, the Lord of the Rings story is about the Hobbits. Yes, we know that, but they try very hard for the Harfoots to be the same way. But I think they really struggle with it at the beginning. And now I think that hopefully, they kind of centered it here, and hopefully it will be much more of a compelling story in future seasons. Maybe not. I don't know. But maybe it's just maybe people are just sick of Hobbits. Who knows?
I mean,
Yeah.
that's the thing, right?
That's the
because
thing, right?
in
Because
the whole
in the whole
Silmarillion and
Silmarillion
the stuff that
the stuff that
Tolkien wrote before The Hobbit, I mean, the first time you meet the Hobbits is in The Hobbit, and so
Yeah,
I
and
do
it says
think
there's
that
not much written about them in the Second Age as well. So this is, I guess, how they get around it, because the Harfoots were supposed to be like the precursors to the Hobbits.
ancestors kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're supposed to be the precursors to the Hobbit. So I think it's, and I mean, obviously, and now with the reveal that the stranger is Gandalf, I mean, we called this very early on. We're kind of seeing his early affinity with, the halflings. Why he feels so kind of attached to them and comforted by them is because he has a very, very long history with halflings and the Harfoots. So I think it's nice, and even the dialogue that him and Nori share here about, the whole thing about like alone is a journey, adventure should be shared. I mean, those are very kind of Tolkien, kind of
Yeah, I think that was in the
dialogue.
previous scene, but this is the scene where we actually
Yeah.
get the sense that he's Gandalf, because he says, follow your nose,"
Follow your-
um, and says the entire her entire name, which is I think in the movie it's like Peregrine took. Does it say it?
Yeah.
Yeah, Peregrine took always follow your nose.
Yeah, it was in Moria. It was in Moria where they're sitting and he wasn't sure which direction to go.
Right.
And then he's finally like, "Oh, we're gonna go that way," and he's like, "Well, when in doubt, follow your nose."
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. All right. So after this, yeah. After this,
I think they're forging. They melted.
Yeah. After this is the forging of the. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, the melting down of her dagger here. And then we
In a
sit.
very precisely measured tray, might I add. I was like, that is very precise.
They made the tray for. They spent some time to make the tray specifically to. Although you know what, they do use it in the process, so maybe they did make the tray, because they did, like, the tray isn't just. It actually is going in the forge, and they're going to use it later on. The tray, they're going to actually spill it out of that, so maybe they did make it for this process.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
So, yeah. So yeah, you see it there. I think it's supposed to. maybe separate the metal, the silver from the gold. I have no idea.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then I like the nice little note of him throwing the mithril in here, and then it turns into an eye. You see that?
I was literally like, that's a nice, clever little Eye of Sauron magic
Yeah,
there.
yeah. It was cool. It was a nice little touch. It was definitely
Mm-hmm.
a nice little touch. Um, so then we actually get the. This is the stuff that just is going to be hand wavy. They're not really explaining this part of how they're mixing them together, because like one ring was supposed to be mithril, one is silver, one is gold, but I guess in the telling here, all of them have a little bit of mithril in them,
Yeah.
and I guess one is like more mithril than the others. I didn't understand what they were doing here. Um, when all of them came out of the molds and they were like different, like I was like, were they gonna like chisel them out of this? But it looks like they made strands and then used those, and then they brought those strands together. So I guess they just did a bunch of research on how rings are actually forged, so they could write these
Yeah.
scenes and make them interesting. So that was actually, and they did make it visually interesting. They actually thought it through, which is cool. And I guess this is what Elrond the
Mm-hmm.
finds the thing and sees that she was lying to him, basically. Um, these stones, do you know what they are, Priya?
Yeah, I mean, they kind of, I thought they were supposed to be like, because initially Celebrimbor was like, oh, the light from the trees, but I don't think that's what they were supposed to be. Because initially when Halbrand is like, what are
Yeah,
these
they're not
jewels? He
I don't think
says
they're the Cimarels, right? They're not the.
they're not the Silmarils, but then that's initially what I thought like they were trying to make it sound like, but I do think there's some sort of light from the. I mean, I forget what Celebrimbor says to Halbrand, because Halbrand asks him like, "What are these jewels?" And they kind of allude to the fact that they have some of that like light in them,
Mm-hmm.
but they're not supposed to be the Silmarils.
Hmm. But yeah, this is where I guess where we end. They have the three rings, and we also see that she sees that he sees that she lied, basically. um, and that expression is like priceless. He's very stone faced. It's like this was a terrible idea. I don't know if this is yeah.
Yeah.
This also sort of explains. I think they're also trying to explain the Elrond that we know we see in the third age as well, because he's much nicer. Like he's kind of flipped. He's much nicer here than he is later on.
Mhm.
He's more open to like humans and dwarves. Like he like his best friend is a dwarf, but he has like very terrible things to say about dwarves. Like they only care about their greed and their whatchamacallit. So I guess you could see him becoming more stringent based upon these betrayals and these setbacks. So I guess they're trying to also tell his story, even though you like him better than you like
Right.
than you like her in this series. I guess they're trying to explain why he's less likable than she is later on. So yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's what the show has done. What the show is trying to tell you is just kind of how these different races just completely have, this kind of like tragedy, because all of them kind of get into these moments of desperation, where we see it with the elves in this season,
Mm-hmm.
and it pretty much sets them up to fail, in the sense that Sauron's able to come in and just completely dominate, the Middle Earth kind of ruling in that sense. So I think it's kind of an interesting way to just see how these powerful races in Middle Earth are just kind of declining. A lot of it is by their own pride, and a lot of it is, just because they don't trust each other.
Yeah.
Between the races too. So I think the show's really kind of showing that tragedy of how Sauron is even able to, kind of come in and take that vacuum.
Yeah, it's definitely their own pride. Definitely some wedges that they build between themselves. I think this is probably the beginning of the rift between the dwarves and the elves, because the elves could have saved them, and the dwarves could have saved them, and they don't. The elves have to save themselves through this option. So yeah, I think that this is the beginning of them fracturing from the dwarves. So, and then the last thing we have is this. There's a crossfade here. Is a good cut. There's a really good cut here between him and his eye. He's in Mordor. And then that's the end of the season. And then they have. I assume this song is from the Tolkien book that they have. This woman sing at the end.
Yeah.
3 rings for the.
Yeah.
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 3.
Those are the Tolkien words, but I was definitely surprised to hear it.
3 rings for the elven kings under the sky. 7 for the dwarf lords in their halls of stone, and 9 for mortal men. So yeah, it'd be cool. We got F. It's like book 1 is elves, book 2 kind of like Avatar, the last Airbender. Book 1 is elves, book 2 is dwarves, book 3 is men, and book 4 is the one ring, and then book 5 is the battle. So yeah. So
I think that'll be a really kind of interesting way to do it too, because we got a lot of the elves. The focus so much was around, the elves and Galadriel. So I think, like I said, the way they set up Durin and Disa at the end of episode 7, because we didn't see them in episode 8, it really does set them up in a way to now really go into, okay, now how do the 7 dwarf lords get their rings? And like we've been saying, Nathan, I think the dwarves have never got that much, kind of space and storytelling in Tolkien lore. So I think it's just really cool. Except for The Hobbit to an extent. So I think it's kind of an interesting way to see their backstory as a race and not just like individual characters. So I hope that's the direction they go with season 2.
It should be good. I'm looking forward to season 2. Like I think we all thought that maybe I think I was a little bit more at the very beginning forgiving for its slow pace than you guys were, and then by like episode 4 I was like, yeah, this is ridiculously slow. This like they could have cut out an entire episode here. There's like a lot of standing around here, and then they definitely hit their stride in like 5, 6, 7, but definitely 6. And then 7, 8, 9. So yeah, it was a satisfying season. Yeah. Right. They should definitely do a bit of an edit on these episodes. Season 2 though. They don't have to be extended edition length every single episode.
Yeah. Like each episode is like 75 minutes.
Yeah.
that's a long episode.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a big time commitment to really watch an hour-long show like this. I think
it's not like you said. It's not like she said. It's not an hour. It's 75 minutes, isn't it? It's hour 15 at least. Sometimes
Yeah.
Sometimes it's hour 11 minutes. But on average 75 minutes a week is a lot of time. So
right, especially dragged at the very beginning, and then yes. It got better as the season wore along, but I understand that a lot of these have to have setup and put in the setup, but it's just
hopefully they don't have to do that. Hopefully they don't have to do it as much next, because they spent a lot of time this season setting it up. There's no other races that we need to learn about in the next season, right? We there might be new characters, but we don't need to know about like who the elves are, who the dwarves are. Unless they want to bring in like trolls or something like that, or flesh out the orcs like society, but even the orcs we saw. But I don't know. I think season 2, even though it might be the book of the book of the dwarves, we're going to see a lot of the fight between Sauron and Adar, because Sauron is back in Mordor, and he has to. Adar is not going to roll over for him. So
Yep.
yeah.
Right.
I mean, he killed him once. He's definitely not going to just give up, because he knows what he's going to do. What he's going to do to his orc brothers, rather. So I guess we'll see that mini battle before we see the giant war, in season 5.
Yeah. That's a good point. I think we're going to see that Adar. We will inevitably see that Adar Sauron showdown, because Adar's in Mordor right now, and that's where we see Sauron Halbrand at the end. So that's going to be really fun. I think that's going. I hope that they don't do that quickly. Not too slow, obviously, but I also hope it's not just like one quick.
No. I think Adar is a really compelling character that they created. I want to see them. Yeah. I given how Sauron lost his power over the orcs, I can see him having to seduce them back or show dominance, and he has nothing right now. So I guess the other part of that is him showing him having to rebuild power, right? So I guess we'll see that as well. So
right,
yeah. It'll be cool, because Adar also is as ancient. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh no! You got it, Priya.
No, I was saying Adar is also like, he's presented as this ancient orc, like he knew Morgoth, so it's almost like he's at not a level playing field as Sauron, but he's also not as easily influenced or seduced.
Yeah.
So I think they've given him a good kind of protagonist to kind of have that tension with.
Yeah, definitely. So looking forward to season 2.
Yeah. Any other final thoughts about the season, Priya or Nathan? I know that you said you just look forward to it. Priya, do you have any thoughts?
No, I think it's good. Hopefully it'll be the book of the dwarves for season 2.
What more Durin, more Disa.
Yeah, definitely looking forward to it too as well. Just to see where it leads them, and how much money is Amazon gonna really spend on this. It'd be pretty fascinating, because I think that a lot of people are just some people might be a little disappointed about the way the season kind of turned out in terms of the beginning parts, and then whether or not Amazon thinks this is going to be a big investment out of them, to invest this much more money on another season. So I think that there is going to be a season 2, but I think that
they already started shooting, so there's definitely going to be a season 2. I don't know if, like you said, maybe they cut the budget, but there definitely is going to be season 2. Yeah.
Right. Well, I think we've been talking a lot about episode 7 and episode 8, but we would like to hear from you. Please comment down below, like and subscribe if you like more content like this, and we will see you next time. All right, guys. Thank you.
All right.